Sophia yelled at me, and Ethan threatened to cut ties with me, but I still signed the divorce papers. He complained my boba tea was too expensive. Yet he gave another woman a grand bouquet of roses. On our wedding anniversary, he rarely brought me to meet his friends. I wore a floral dress, but he said it was embarrassing and told me to change. Yet, once we entered the private dining room, he complimented another woman on her beautiful dress, a dress identical to mine. They exchanged a knowing glance and completely ignored me, who was trailing behind. It wasn't until someone said, "Eleanor's here today." Marcus seemed to just remember my presence and glanced back at me, his eyes full of impatience. Yes, he turned to me and said, "It's Tiffany's birthday today. She loves your special chocolate cake the most. I've already spoken to the kitchen staff. Go make it." I froze, taken aback, and stared at Marcus in disbelief. I thought he brought me here to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But it turned out to be for Tiffany's birthday, and he expected me to cook for her. Marcus saw me standing motionless and frowned. "What are you waiting for? Go now." I instinctively turned around and walked out like a puppet. After so many years of marriage, I had long grown accustomed to his commanding tone. Behind me, one of his friends said, "Marcus, be a little gentler with Eleanor." Marcus scoffed. "She's uneducated and illiterate. She wouldn't understand if I spoke gently." The waves of laughter that followed pierced my heart like sharp swords. I knew Marcus had always looked down on me for being uneducated, but I never imagined he would humiliate me like this. I finished making the special chocolate cake as if in a daze and had the kitchen staff bring it to the table. I instinctively picked up my phone and saw that Tiffany had just posted on Instagram. It was a selfie of her holding flowers, with the caption, "Thanks Marcus, for the grand bouquet of roses. It's embarrassing to still receive flowers at my age." Her fingers were slender and long, adorned with a beautiful gemstone ring, making her look like a lady of leisure. I looked down at my own hands, which were rough and worn from years of housework, and Marcus had never even given me a single flower. At that moment, I lost my appetite. My gaze drifted to the street. Across the street, at the boba tea shop entrance, a mascot in costume was enthusiastically dancing. But I hadn't brought my wallet today. After a moment's thought, I returned to the private dining room. By then, Marcus and Tiffany were already seated at the head of the table. His arm rested on the back of Tiffany's chair. They looked like a loving couple. There was hardly any food left on the table, and the special chocolate cake I had made myself had only been tasted by Tiffany. Seeing me, Marcus asked, surprised, "Why are you still here?" I clenched my fingers tightly and said, "I want a boba tea. Give me 10 yuan, and I'll buy it and leave." "How old are you? Why do you want boba tea? Those things are a rip-off. Not worth the price at all. Besides, isn't there water on the table? You're this old. Don't you know how to save money for our children? Go home now. Don't embarrass me here." Inside the private dining room, the previously lively atmosphere instantly froze. Everyone's gaze fell on me, and they looked at me as if I were a joke. A flicker of awkwardness crossed Tiffany's face. She gently put down her teacup and said softly, "Eleanor, if you want boba tea, I'll go buy you a cup right now." Marcus abruptly cut her off, his voice filled with impatience. "Buy what? How old is she to be craving snacks like a child?" "Tiffany, ignore her. She's just causing trouble." He turned his head and looked at me with a complex gaze, filled with intense disgust and impatience. Like sharp knives, each glance stabbed at my heart. "Get out of here and go home. Stop making a spectacle of yourself." Marcus saw that I wasn't moving and continued to yell at me. My chest felt heavy, and my heart felt like it was being tormented over a fire. I thought that after so many years of marriage with Marcus, even if he didn't love me, he would at least have some familial affection for me, but I was wrong, in his eyes. I was always an unsophisticated country woman, a rag he could discard at any time. I looked at him, my voice soft yet clear. "Marcus, let's get a divorce." Marcus froze for a moment, as if he hadn't heard what I said. Then, he burst into a harsh laugh. "Divorce? You're talking about divorce with me? Are you out of your mind?" He abruptly stood up, pointed a finger at my nose, and shouted, his voice deafening, "You want to divorce me over 10 yuan for boba tea? Are you insane?" People around us started whispering. Their gazes held mockery, pity, and most of all, the detached curiosity of spectators. I looked at his face, distorted by anger, but my heart strangely grew calm. I began to reflect. For all these years, I had given everything for him, for this family, but what about him? What did he give me? Endless chores, non-stop criticism, and a heart that would never warm to me. I slowly nodded. Yes, Over 10 yuan for boba tea. I'm divorcing you. I turned around and walked out of the private dining room step by step, without looking back. Behind me, Marcus's furious shouts echoed, along with the crisp sound of a shattered glass, but I no longer cared. Let those sounds remain in the past. They no longer concern me. Back home, I started packing my belongings, looking around. In this place where I had lived for 30 years, there were surprisingly few things that truly belonged to me. My clothes were outdated, I had no jewelry, and even the furniture we used was bought by him. Even though I had cleaned them for 30 years, they still weren't mine. Before long, Marcus returned, seething with rage. He stared at me, eyes bloodshot, like an enraged beast. As soon as he entered, he pointed at me and cursed. "You crazy woman, you've completely disgraced me. How am I supposed to face anyone now?" He saw me packing my things, and his fury intensified, almost reaching the ceiling. "What are you stirring up now? Do you really want a divorce? Let me tell you, don't even dream about it." He rushed to me in a few strides, grabbed my arm with such force it felt like he'd crush my bones. "You're coming back with me right now to apologize to my friends. Tell them you're going through menopause, talking nonsense." I forcefully shook off his hand and looked at him coldly. "Marcus, I'll say it again. I want a divorce. I'm not playing games. It's not menopause. I'm serious." As I looked, my eyes held nothing but endless disappointment and resolve. Marcus's face turned ashen, flushing red and then pale white, looking like a distorted palette. He probably never imagined I would be so firm and decisive in demanding a divorce. He suddenly calmed down, and a cold sneer appeared on his face. "Fine, fine, fine. You want a divorce, do you? I'll let you divorce me." He picked up his phone, dialed a number, and said urgently, "Hello, Ethan. You and your sister need to come home right away. Your mom wants to divorce me." On the other end of the line, my children's voices sounded surprised, but more so impatient and annoyed. They rushed back, and as soon as they entered, they immediately started questioning me harshly. Sophia's face was full of impatience. Her elaborate makeup couldn't hide her anger. "Mom, what are you doing? At your age, you're still making a fuss about divorce. You might not be ashamed, but I am." Ethan was even more direct, his voice full of accusation. "Mom, can you be sensible? I was in a meeting at work, and you called me back with one phone call. Do you know how busy I am? You're just creating drama." I looked at these two children I had raised with my own hands, and my heart sank little by little. I thought they would understand me and stand by me, or at least offer some comfort even if they didn't understand, but they sided with Marcus, accusing me, complaining about me, and saying I had shamed them. I suddenly found it ridiculous. I had given and sacrificed everything for this family, for them, only to end up deserted by my family and friends. I looked at them, my eyes empty, my heart turned to ashes. Marcus saw that his children were all on his side, and a look of triumph appeared on his face. He found a divorce papers template online, downloaded it, printed it, and threw it in front of me like a piece of trash. "You want a divorce, don't you? Sign it. Let's see how you'll survive without me." He just wanted to humiliate me in front of Ethan and Sophia. Sophia pretended to persuade me from the side. "Mom, don't sign. Just apologize to him, and this will all blow over." She seemed to be persuading me, but in reality, she was trying to save face for herself. After all, it was rare for parents in their 50s to get a divorce. Ethan, meanwhile, glared at me, his voice as cold as a stone. "If you dare to sign that, don't ever call me your son again." I looked at them, and the last shred of hope in my heart completely shattered. I understood then, in this house, I had always been an outsider, a dispensable presence. I picked up the pen, my hand not trembling at all, and signed my name on the divorce papers. Those few words were written so smoothly, so decisively, as if I had rehearsed them 1,000 times in my mind then. I picked up my already packed luggage and walked out of the house without looking back. Behind me were Marcus's roars, Sophia's cries, and Ethan's curses, all those sounds, but I only felt an unprecedented lightness. The 30-year burden on my shoulders finally lifted. I stood on the street with my luggage, my heart filled with uncertainty. 30 years of marriage had been like a nightmare, and now, it was finally time to wake up. I took out my phone, scrolling through my contacts list, and finally stopped at Victoria. She was my best friend of over 20 years, and the only person I could think of right now. The call connected, and Victoria's voice was as cheerful as ever. "Hello? What's up?" "Victoria, I'm divorced." My voice trembled, and I almost couldn't hold back my tears. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end, then Victoria's voice rose. "What? Say that again." "Marcus and I are divorced, this time." My voice held no tremor, only firmness. "Where are you?" "I'm coming to pick you up right away." Victoria's voice was urgent. Before long, a red sports car screeched to a halt in front of me. Victoria jumped out of the car and hugged me tightly. "Good for you. That kind of man should have been kicked to the curb ages ago." Her eyes were red, and she was even more emotional than I was, held tightly in her embrace. Feeling her warmth, my tears finally broke free. "Victoria, I have nowhere to go. Come to my place." "Who dares say you have nowhere to go? My home is your home," Victoria declared firmly. She opened the trunk, helped me put my luggage in, and pulled me into the passenger seat. The car drove into Victoria's neighborhood, an upscale gated community with comfortable surroundings. I sat in the car, looking out the window, feeling even more disheartened. Everything here felt out of place for me. Victoria seemed to sense my feelings. She took my hand and said softly, "Don't be afraid. This will be your home from now on. Stay as long as you like." I looked at her gratefully and nodded. Inside the house, Victoria settled me in the second-floor guest room, where a housekeeper was tidying up. She bustled about, helping me unpack, while continuously scolding Marcus. "That old man, he's absolutely worthless. I told you to divorce him back then, but you wouldn't listen. Now look what happened. 30 years wasted." She then brought up Ethan and Sophia, "And those two ingrates of yours, what a waste raising them. During the new, you were busy cooking over 20 dishes by yourself, while those three just sat in the living room watching TV, not lifting a finger. That kind of life should have ended ages ago." As I listened, my heart was filled with bitterness. I had long grown accustomed to such days, but only Victoria was willing to stand up for me and feel my pain. Victoria was a woman of action. In that era, it was nearly impossible for divorced women to make a living on their own. But she ventured into business and carved out a successful path for herself, building up her current wealth. Now in her 50s, she looked like she was in her 30s. I looked at her, filled with envy. I had toiled too much for the family over the years, let alone a tenure on boba tea. Even the clothes I wore were cheap clothes, far from the carefree life Victoria led on her own. After settling in at Victoria's house, I found a job as a salesperson at a nearby supermarket. The supermarket provided meals and accommodation, and I thought of moving into the dorms to trouble Victoria less, but flat out refused. "You couldn't possibly get used to the dorm environment, could you? Just stay here with me. Don't be polite." I couldn't argue with her, so I continued to stay. The supermarket job was tiring, standing for over 10 hours a day and constantly interacting with customers, but I cherished it. It was the beginning of my new life. One day, as I was organizing a shelf, a familiar figure appeared. It was Sophia. She was with a young girl, picking out items. Sophia saw me too. Her face went pale, her eyes darted away, as if she had a guilty conscience. The girl next to her asked, "What's wrong? Do you know her?" Sophia quickly shook her head. "No, I don't know her." She quickly paid and pulled the girl away. I stood there, my heart aching as if cut by a knife. The child I had raised with my own hands had now become the person who least wanted to see me. After work, Sophia blocked my way at the supermarket entrance. Her face was full of anger as she immediately confronted me. "Why are you working here? Are you deliberately trying to embarrass me?" I looked at her, my heart turning cold. "I need to work. I need to support myself. You." Sophia trembled with anger. "Go back and apologize to Dad. Admit your mistake. What is an unemployed housewife doing working as a salesperson? You might not be ashamed, but I am." I looked at her coldly. "I'm not going back. I've already divorced your father. You're truly crazy." Sophia glared at me and walked away. I watched her retreating back, and the last glimmer of hope in my heart vanished. I thought she would at least understand me. And even if she didn't support me, she wouldn't speak to me like that. But I was wrong. Like her father, she only cared about her own reputation. I took a deep breath, held back my tears, and turned to walk in the opposite direction. I wouldn't go back, not ever. At the end of the month, Marcus and I arranged to go to City Hall to finalize the divorce. Ethan and Sophia didn't show up. They no longer wanted to see me. Marcus looked at me and sneered. "What, having regrets? It's not too late to go back now." I looked at him and found it ridiculous. In the months since leaving home, I had felt incredibly light, going to and from work every day, doing things I enjoyed, no longer confined to the kitchen, and no longer having to tolerate anyone's moods. It felt truly liberating. Why would I regret it? I retorted. Marcus's expression darkened considerably. He hadn't expected me to say that. At the window, the staff handed us 2 forms. Marcus, still unwilling to give up, looked at me, his voice softening. Are you really sure about this? If you apologize to me and say a few soft words, I'll forgive you. I sneered. Marcus, are you perhaps overestimating yourself? Why should I apologize to you? You're the one who should apologize. I took the forms and filled them out without a moment's hesitation. After the staff verified them, they stamped the documents and handed us our divorce certificates. Holding the divorce certificate, I walked out of City Hall. The sunlight fell on me, warm and comforting. I looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and felt as if the entire world had brightened. I was free. Back at Victoria's house, I showed her the divorce certificate. She excitedly hugged me. That's fantastic. You're finally free. We're celebrating tonight. We opened a bottle of red wine, made a few small dishes, and sat at the dining table, eating and chatting. Victoria raised her glass. Cheers to our new life. I smiled, clinked glasses with her, and took a gulp as we chatted. The doorbell rang. Victoria went to open the door, and I heard a familiar voice. It was Ethan. He stormed in, saw me, and immediately started yelling, "What do you think you're doing? Do you have any idea how much you've ruined my life?" I was stunned. I ruined your life? How did I ruin your life? My girlfriend's parents heard you divorced at your age and think our family's reputation is bad, so they won't approve of our marriage anymore. Ethan yelled. I looked at him and only felt it was absurd. Any remaining hope in my heart vanished. So, what do you want me to do? I asked coldly. You need to come back with me right now and remarry Dad. Only then can I marry my girlfriend, Ethan said, completely justified. My heart felt as though it had been violently smashed by a boulder, shattering into pieces that could never be put back together. Was this boy, whose features vaguely resembled mine, truly the son I raised through countless sacrifices? I opened my mouth, but my throat felt constricted, and I couldn't utter a single word once. He was a little person who would cling to my legs and whine playfully, sweetly calling me mommy. But now, the coldness and disdain in his eyes were like sharp knives, slowly torturing my heart. I looked at him, my eyes burning. Something welling up in them, Mom? Why aren't you speaking? Are you mute? Ethan saw my silence, and his tone grew even more impatient. At that moment, Victoria suddenly stood up, stood in front of me, and glared at Ethan. How dare you speak to your mother like that? Do you have no manners? She's your mom, not your enemy. Ethan was intimidated by Victoria's imposing presence and took a step back, but still retorted stubbornly, "This is our family business. It's none of yours." How is it none of my business? She's living in my house now. She's my family. If you dare to disrespect her again, don't blame me for being rude. Victoria didn't back down, standing with her hands on her hips, looking ready to fight Ethan. Ethan clearly hadn't expected Victoria to defend me so fiercely. He was momentarily speechless, his face alternating between green and white. I looked at Victoria, and a wave of bitterness washed over me. Who would have thought that in the end, it would be my best friend standing by my side, and not my own children? Ethan took a deep breath, seemingly suppressing his anger. He glared at me and sneered, "You'll regret this sooner or later." Then he slammed the door and left. I slumped into the chair, like a puppet drained of its soul. Victoria came over, gently patted my shoulder, and comforted me. "Don't mind him. He's just a spoiled kid." I smiled bitterly. This child, I had spoiled him myself. I thought that as long as I gave everything, I would earn his love and respect, but I was wrong, terribly wrong. He simply didn't care what I thought or felt. In the following days, I continued to work at the supermarket. Life seemed to return to normal. One day, as I was organizing products on a shelf, a familiar figure came into view. It was Marcus, and Tiffany was with him. They walked arm in arm, intimately choosing products, like a loving married couple. Tiffany occasionally let out flirtatious giggles, while Marcus looked at her with doting affection. I looked at them and felt a wave of nausea. Marcus saw me too. He paused for a moment, then snorted coldly, his eyes full of contempt and disdain. Tiffany feigned surprise with a soft "oh." Then she said in a sweet, affected voice to Marcus, "Marcus, look, isn't that Eleanor? Eleanor, why are you working here? It must be so hard. I told you a long time ago. What can a woman do after a divorce? It would have been better if you had. She deliberately paused, and then continued in a condescending tone. It would have been better if you had just humbly admitted your mistake to Marcus. Maybe he would have softened up and forgiven you. I looked at her coldly and cut her off. Tiffany, drop that fake act. How I live my life is none of your business. Tiffany was choked by my words, and her face immediately turned unpleasant. She hadn't expected me to be so disrespectful, and for a moment, she was at a loss for words. Seeing this, Marcus immediately stepped forward to defend Tiffany. How dare you speak like that? Tiffany was kindly concerned for you. What kind of attitude is that? I looked at him and found it utterly ridiculous. Concerned about me? Marcus, when did you become so hypocritical? Is your so-called concern bringing your new lover here to flaunt her in front of me? My words made Marcus's face turn livid. He pointed at me and said, exasperated, You're simply unreasonable. I'm unreasonable? I sneered. Marcus, ask yourself honestly, who is truly unreasonable? Who drove me to this point in the first place? And now you have the nerve to blame me. My voice grew louder and louder, attracting the sideways glances of nearby customers. Marcus probably felt embarrassed and pulled Tiffany away. I watched their retreating, discomfited figures, feeling no satisfaction, only endless sorrow. This was the man I once loved. This was the family I once gave everything for, but they were simply not worth it. After work that evening, I returned to Victoria's house, and she mysteriously told me that she had found me a new job. What kind of job? I asked, curious. Remember how you used to love knitting in your free time? Your craftsmanship is so good, you could totally make money from this, Victoria said excitedly. Only then did I remember that for 30 years of marriage, all I did at home besides housework was knit. Almost all of Ethan and Sophia's sweaters when they were little were hand-knitted by me. Back then, when they wore the sweaters I knitted to school, they always drew envious glances from their classmates. Their teachers even praised them as the best-dressed children in class. Looking back, those were probably some of the few highlights in my past 30 years. My craftsmanship was indeed good. I could perfectly replicate any sweater's style and pattern just by looking at it, Victoria said. There are a lot of people online who like vintage styles nowadays. They'll pay high prices for discontinued or rare sweaters. You can take orders online and help them recreate those sweaters. Plus, you can make some video clips, share your knitting skills, and who knows, maybe even become an influencer. I hesitated. At my age, can I really do that? Why not? Age isn't a problem. Attitude is key. Show those who look down on you that you can still live well without them. Victoria encouraged me. Her words swayed me, and I decided to give it a try. After all, I had nothing left to lose. This might be my last chance to fight for something in life, and so, I quit my supermarket job, and together with Victoria, I started a video channel. It specialized in helping people recreate sweaters that were discontinued or no longer wearable. Slowly, our channel began to gain traction. More and more people were drawn to my craftsmanship and story and started following us. In just 1 month, our followers surpassed 100,000. Victoria told me that we could now live stream. Just then, I suddenly remembered I had left a pair of knitting needles at Marcus's house. I had knitted day and night for a month to save up for them. Those knitting needles were a limited edition, now out of production, and held immense significance for me. I had to get them back. I called Marcus and told him I was coming back to get something. He said impatiently, "Get what? What's there to get? You've been gone for so long. Why are you coming back?" I couldn't be bothered to argue with him, so I hung up immediately and went to his house. When I pushed open the door and saw the scene before me, I froze. Tiffany was wearing an apron and busy in the kitchen. Ethan and Sophia were both helping out nearby, one washing vegetables, the other chopping them, chatting and laughing. Marcus, the man who once never lifted a finger, was also wearing an apron, happily helping to carry dishes. The family seemed to be enjoying themselves, warm and harmonious. Seeing me, their smiles instantly froze, and the atmosphere became awkward. Ethan and Sophia acted as if they hadn't seen me and continued what they were doing. Marcus, meanwhile, frowned and asked impatiently, "What are you doing here?" I ignored him, walked straight into the bedroom, and found my knitting needles. The knitting needles had been carelessly left on top of the wardrobe, covered in a layer of dust. I carefully picked up the knitting needles and gently wiped them clean with my hand. These knitting needles held too many of my memories and emotions. "Take your things and leave quickly. Don't disturb our meal," Marcus's voice echoed from behind me. I turned around, looked at him, and felt an overwhelming sense of unfamiliarity. Was this man truly the one I had shared a bed with for 30 years? Just then, Tiffany came out of the kitchen carrying a dish and said with a beaming smile, "Eleanor, since you're here, why don't you join us for dinner?" I looked at her hypocritical smile and felt disgusted. "No need, I'm afraid your food would give me indigestion." I held the knitting needles and left without looking back. Behind me, Tiffany's feigned aggrieved voice drifted over. "Marcus, look, Eleanor was kindly invited to eat, but she wouldn't accept." I quickened my pace and fled from that suffocating place as if escaping. Back at Victoria's house, I showed her the knitting needles. She recognized the value of the knitting needles at a glance and exclaimed, "These are great. Where did you get them?" I told her what had happened after listening. She said angrily, "Marcus and his family are truly outrageous. How could they treat you like that?" I smiled bitterly. "It's okay. It's all in the past now. I just want to focus on running our channel. The rest doesn't matter anymore." In the days that followed, I fully dedicated myself to managing the channel. Every day, I would live stream for a few hours, teaching people how to knit and sharing my knitting skills. During one live stream, Victoria had a sudden idea and told my story, unexpectedly. This story created a huge buzz online. My channel went viral overnight, gaining 2 million followers. Through this channel, I truly earned a significant income. Victoria and I planned to buy a small villa on the coast. When we retired in the future, we would move there to live by the ocean, enjoying the warmth and natural beauty. One day, Sophia suddenly called me, her voice filled with thinly veiled excitement. "Mom, I saw you online. You're a big influencer now. I never knew you had this talent." The coldness in her voice had vanished, but as I listened, my heart felt a pang of bitterness. Would she have remained a stranger to me for my entire life if I hadn't built this channel? On the other end of the phone, Sophia's voice became somewhat hesitant. "Mom, well, I don't want to work anymore. Can you help me out? I heard live streaming can make a lot of money." "No," I blurted out almost instinctively, without a moment's hesitation. On the other end of the line, Sophia's voice instantly froze, as if chilled by the sudden refusal. She probably never imagined that her mother, who had always been so compliant, would so flatly reject her request. After a brief silence, she eagerly pressed, "Why, Mom? Why not? I'm your daughter. Everyone has to be responsible for what they've said and pay the price." My voice was soft, yet it carried an indescribable weariness. I originally thought that was the end of it. Unexpectedly, a few days later, I stumbled upon Tiffany's channel on the platform. She had actually opened a channel identical to mine, mimicking my style, knitting and filming videos. When saw it, she was furious, rolling up her sleeves, ready to expose their family's dirty laundry online. I stopped her. For me, whatever that family did no longer concerned me. Exposing them would only show that I still cared. A few days later, Tiffany's channel was gone. The reason was simple. She maliciously slandered me in the comments section, but netizens discovered that our IP addresses were from the same location. Following the trail, netizens uncovered the whole story. Tiffany was utterly lambasted. I've seen shameless people, but never one this shameless, stealing someone's idea and then having the nerve to accuse them. This mistress is truly dedicated. Not only does she steal someone's husband, but she also tries to steal their livelihood. The IP addresses are the same. What's there to pretend about? Do they really think we netizens are idiots? Labels like old mistress and home wrecker were all pinned on her. She couldn't handle the online backlash and left the internet. As for me, I benefited from the misfortune, gained another surge of followers, and firmly secured my position as the top creator in this field. Meanwhile, Marcus's house was targeted by a public shaming campaign. He was so enraged that he suffered a cerebral hemorrhage on the spot and was hospitalized. He was paralyzed and bedridden, unable to care for himself. And with Ethan and Sophia busy with work, the burden of caring for him naturally fell upon Tiffany, until one day, Ethan and Sophia discovered unexplained bruises on Marcus's body. After reviewing the surveillance footage, they realized that Tiffany had been abusing Marcus. "I'm telling you, you're a useless cripple now, worse than a dog. Look at yourself now. You're neither human nor ghost. What's the point of living?" She forcefully covered Marcus's mouth with his freshly used adult diapers and continued to curse at him. "You old coot. That's what you get for being disobedient, for causing me trouble." Watching the surveillance footage, Ethan and Sophia suddenly remembered how good I used to be. They remembered the days after Marcus's surgery when I didn't mind the filth or the exhaustion. Carrying his waste and caring for him personally, they regretted their past actions, came to apologize to me, begging me to return. Mom, we were wrong, please come back. We can't live without you, Ethan pleaded, crying. Yes, Mom, with you not at home, it doesn't feel like a home anymore. Sophia echoed. I looked at them, feeling no ripple of emotion. I'm not the same housewife I used to be. I can't go back, I refused them, but still went to the hospital to see Marcus. He lay on the hospital bed, his body covered in tubes and wearing a ventilator. Seeing me, 2 lines of tears streamed from his clouded eyes. Those tears contained regret, unwillingness, and endless sorrow. I stood by the bed, looking at his condition, my heart a mix of emotions. He was once the most important person in my life. I managed his household, raised his children, and dedicated all my youth and effort to him. But now, he lay there like an abandoned rag doll, alone and isolated, awaiting fate's verdict. Marcus took my hand and seemed to want to say something, but his lips moved slightly, and he couldn't utter a word. I wondered if, at this stage of his life, he regretted the things he had done to hurt me, but no matter what he thought, I no longer cared. What if he regretted it? The harm he inflicted was real, and while I couldn't forgive him, I no longer hated him. I sighed and bid Marcus farewell. Perhaps this was the last time I would see him. Later, Marcus was brought back home. He remained paralyzed in bed, unable to care for himself. His son and daughter could only take turns taking time off work to care for him. At first, they tried their best, but as time went on, exhaustion and annoyance gradually took over. As the saying goes, patience wears thin when caring for a long-term invalid. And they were utterly fed up. They started to make amends with me, trying to atone for their past mistakes, but a high wall had already been built between us, and there was no going back to how things used to be. I poured all my energy into running my video channel, and together with Victoria, we were thriving. We planned that once things settled down, we would take a vacation to the coast. Meanwhile, Marcus passed away quietly one night, unnoticed by anyone. Victoria and I embarked on our journey to the coast. The sea breeze brushed my face, carrying a salty scent that cleared the shadows from my mind. My new life was just beginning, and those who had once hurt me would become mere passing strangers in my life, left far behind. Sunlight sparkled on the waves. I took a deep breath. My life was finally mine to control.